The docking clamps locked onto Minji's cargo ship with a metallic thud that echoed through the hull. She had been flying for 16 hours straight, and her eyes burned with fatigue. Orbital Station Tau 9 floated ahead of her viewport, a massive ring of metal and lights spinning slowly against the black void of space. It was a neutral trading hub, one of the few places where ships from a dozen different species could dock without worrying about whose territory they were in. Minji powered down her engines and stretched in her pilot's seat. She was 26 years old, slim and average height by human standards, with dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. Her ship carried medical supplies bound for a colony 3 jumps away. It was boring work, but it paid well enough, and it kept her out among the stars where she preferred to be. The station's automated system pinged her communicator. Vessel registration confirmed. Proceed to Docking Bay 7 for customs inspection. She grabbed her identification chip and headed down the narrow corridor to the airlock. The station's artificial gravity took over as she stepped through, and she felt the familiar pull that was slightly lighter than Earth's gravity. Most stations were built this way, calibrated for the average of the species that used them. For Minji, it felt like walking on a moon. The customs area was busy. Aliens of various species moved through the checkpoints, some tall and thin, others short and wide. The Valkyrie were easy to spot with their forearms and chitinous armor plates. The Tharn lumbered past with their thick, muscular builds. A few Kryn floated by, their tentacles rippling as they examined cargo. Manifests on floating screens. Minji walked to the nearest checkpoint and placed her hand on the scanner. The machine hummed as it read her biometrics, checking her DNA, her skeletal density, her muscle composition. It was standard procedure, something she had done hundreds of times at hundreds of stations. The scanner beeped. Then it beeped again, louder this time. Every screen in the customs area suddenly flashed red. A warning appeared in bright crimson letters across every terminal. In every language used in this sector of space, Earthborn detected. Do not engage in physical confrontation. Threat level, extreme. The customs area went silent. Aliens stopped what they were doing and stared at the screens. Then someone laughed. It was a harsh, clicking sound that came from a Valkyrie guard near the wall. Others joined in, a chorus of alien laughter that filled the space. Minji felt her face grow hot. She had seen this warning before at other stations, but it never stopped being embarrassing. The galaxy thought humans were weak. They looked at Earth's gravity, at human bone density and muscle fiber, and saw nothing special. Most species had natural advantages like armor, venom, or extra limbs. Humans had nothing but their basic biology. The warning seemed like a joke to them. A malfunction. Something to laugh about. Captain Jiwon, the station's security chief, appeared from his office. He was a middle-aged man, also human, with gray at his temples and tired eyes. He waved his hand at the customs officers. Clear the warning. She's just a cargo hauler. Process her through. The screens flickered and returned to normal. The aliens went back to their business, still chuckling and making comments to each other in their various languages. Minji grabbed her cleared identification chip and headed toward the cargo bay where her supplies needed to be OFFLOADED. She did not notice the tall Valkyrie officer watching her from across the customs area. Commander Hyen was 7 feet tall, with 4 powerful arms and armor plating that gleamed under the station's lights. He had recently arrived at Tau 9 after a string of victories against the Kryn Collective. His chest bore the marks of his rank, and his primary arms carried the scars of honorable combat. He was a warrior, decorated and respected, and he had never lost a fight. The warning on the screen had caught his attention. He stared at the small human woman walking away, then back at the warning that had just cleared. Earthborn, do not engage. Threat level extreme. It was insulting. It was absurd. He turned to his entourage, 3 junior Valkyrie officers who followed him everywhere. "Did you see that?" he asked, his voice a deep rumble. "The scanner thinks that little creature is dangerous." One of his officers clicked his mandibles in amusement. "The humans are soft, Commander. Everyone knows this. They have no armor, no natural weapons. The scanner must be broken." Hyen felt anger building in his chest. The Valkyrie Empire prided itself on strength. They were warriors, the finest in the galaxy. And now a machine was suggesting that a weak, fragile human, was a threat to them? "I will prove this wrong," Hyen said. He began walking toward the cargo bay, his officers following behind him. Minji was in Bay 7, checking her cargo containers, when she heard the heavy footsteps behind her. She turned and saw the Valkyrie commander approaching with 3 others. The bay suddenly felt smaller. Other workers, aliens from various species, quickly found reasons to be elsewhere. "You," Hyen said, pointing one of his forearms at her. "Human?" Minji straightened up. She had dealt with aggressive aliens before. The key was to stay calm and not give them an excuse. "Can I help you, Commander?" "The scanner said you were dangerous," Hyen said. His mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter. "I want to see if this is true." Captain Jiwon's voice crackled over the bay's speaker system. "Commander Hyen, station regulations prohibit unauthorized confrontations. Please return to your assigned area." Hyen ignored him. He took a step closer to Minji. "Your species is weak. You have no armor, no claws, no venom. You are nothing but soft flesh and fragile bones." Minji backed up slightly, her hands held up in a peaceful gesture. "I don't want any trouble. I'm just here to deliver cargo. The scanner warned us not to engage with you," Hyen continued. He was enjoying this, showing off in front of his officers. "It said you were a threat. This is an insult to the Valkyrie Empire. I will show everyone that humans are no threat at all." "Commander, please," Minji said. Her voice was steady, but her heart was pounding. "Just let me do my job, or what?" Hyen moved closer, looming over her. "What will you do, little human?" Jaimun's voice came through the speakers again, more urgent now. "Commander, I'm ordering you to stand down. Security teams are on their way." But Hyen was not listening. He had made his decision. He would prove the scanner wrong. He would show everyone that humans were as pathetic as they looked. He reached out with his primary right arm, intending to shove her backward, to make her stumble and fall. It would be humiliating for her, and it would prove his point. Minji saw his arm coming. She had 1 second to make a choice. She could let him push her, let him have his moment, and maybe this would be over. Or she could defend herself. She looked directly into his alien eyes and said one word: "Don't." Hyen laughed. It was a deep rumbling sound that came from somewhere in his armored chest, and then he stepped forward, his hand reaching for her shoulder. The moment Hyen's hand touched Minji's shoulder, everything changed. She moved. Not with supernatural speed, but with the quick efficiency of someone who had trained their whole life. Her left hand snapped up and grabbed his wrist. Her right hand pushed against his elbow. She turned her body and used his own forward momentum against him. Hyen, who weighed nearly 300 pounds with his armor, suddenly found himself flying through the air. His feet left the ground. For a brief, confused moment, he saw the ceiling of the cargo bay rushing toward him. Then his back slammed into the metal deck plating with a tremendous crash. The impact dented the floor. Hyen's breath exploded from his lungs. Warning signals flared in his brain, telling him something was wrong, that he was injured. He tried to process what had just happened, but before he could move, the human was on top of him. Minji's knee drove into his chest, right into the gap between his armor plates. Her hands moved like striking snakes. She grabbed his primary right arm, the one he had used to touch her, and before he could pull it back, she twisted her body and brought her boot down on his elbow joint. The crack echoed through the cargo bay. Hyen screamed, a sound that no Valkyrie warrior should ever make. His primary right arm bent at an angle that nature never intended. His 3 other arms swung at her, trying to knock her away. But Minji was already moving. She rolled off him and came up in a crouch. When his secondary left arm swept toward her head, she ducked under it and stepped in close. Too close for his long arms to be effective. Her fist drove into his throat, right above his chest armor. Valkyrie anatomy was different from humans, but they still needed to breathe. Hyen gagged, his eyes wide with shock and pain. She did not stop. Her other hand came up and pressed against his right eye, her thumb finding the soft tissue. Hyen jerked his head back, and she used that moment to hook her leg behind his and push. He fell backward again, his damaged arm flailing uselessly. The 3 Valkyrie officers finally broke from their shock. They rushed forward to help their commander, but Captain Ji-won's security team burst into the cargo bay at the same moment, weapons drawn. "Nobody moves," Ji-won shouted. His security officers, a mix of humans and other species, pointed their weapons at Hyen's entourage. "Station law is clear. Your commander initiated contact after being warned. Stand down." The Valkyrie officers stopped, looking between their fallen commander and the security team's weapons. They were warriors, but they were not stupid. This was a neutral station. Starting a firefight here would have consequences. Minji stood over Hyen, breathing hard. Her knuckles were bloody, though most of the blood was not hers. She looked down at the commander, who was trying to get up despite his broken arm and damaged throat. "I told you not to," she said quietly. Hyen looked up at her with hatred and pain and something else. Something that might have been fear. He had fought in dozens of battles, had defeated enemy warriors in single combat, had earned every mark on his armor through honorable victory. And now he lay broken on the deck of a cargo bay, defeated by a creature he had believed was weak. He tried to speak, but his damaged throat only produced a wet gurgling sound. He tried to stand, but his broken arm and damaged ribs made movement agony. He was, for the first time in his life, completely helpless. Medical Officer Dayan arrived with her trauma team. She was a young human woman with quick hands and a calm demeanor, and she had seen enough violence in her career to not be shocked by much. But even she paused when she saw Commander Hyen's condition. "Get him on the stretcher," she ordered her team. "Careful with that arm. And someone get me a scan of his chest cavity. I think he has internal bleeding." The medical team swarmed around Hyen, stabilizing him for transport. Minji stepped back, letting them work. Her hands were shaking now that the adrenaline was fading. She looked at the blood on her knuckles and felt sick. Captain Ji-won walked over to her. "Are you injured?" he asked. She shook her head. "No, I'm fine. I need you to come with me," he said gently. "Not under arrest, but for your own protection. When word of this gets out, the Valkyrie are going to want answers." Minji nodded. She understood. She had just broken a Valkyrie commander in front of witnesses. There would be consequences. As the security team escorted her out of the cargo bay, she saw the other aliens watching her. They were not laughing anymore. They stood in silence, staring at her with expressions she could not quite read. Fear, perhaps, or respect, or both. The medical team loaded Hyen onto the stretcher and rushed him toward the station's medical center. Dan walked beside him, checking his vitals on a handheld scanner. 3 broken bones, severe bruising, possible internal injuries, and significant trauma to his throat. He would live, but his recovery would take months. In the security office, Ji-won pulled up the footage from the cargo bay's cameras. 17 different angles showed the entire confrontation. Every moment was recorded in perfect detail. Hyen approaching Minji, her warning, his hand reaching out. And then the fight, if it could even be called that. G1 watched the footage 3 times, studying it carefully. The whole incident had lasted less than 2 minutes from start to finish. 2 minutes for a cargo hauler with no military training to completely incapacitate a decorated Valkyrie war hero. He looked at Minji, who sat in a chair across from his desk. She was small and ordinary-looking, with tired eyes and bloody knuckles. She did not look like a warrior. She did not look dangerous, but the scanner had been right. "The footage is already spreading," Ji-won said, checking his console. "Someone on the station uploaded it to the network. It's on every major news feed in this sector." Minji closed her eyes. "Of course it is. The Valkyrie embassy is demanding your extradition," Ji-won continued. "They're claiming you're a trained assassin. They want to know how a civilian cargo hauler could defeat one of their commanders." "I'm not an assassin," Minji said. "I'm just a pilot." "Then how did you do it?" Ji-won asked, not accusingly, but genuinely curious. Minji looked at her hands. "I grew up on Earth, normal gravity, normal atmosphere. I took self-defense classes when I was young, like a lot of people do. Basic stuff. How to fall without getting hurt. How to use leverage instead of strength. How to hit the places that matter. That's it?" Ji-won asked. "Basic self-defense classes?" "That's it," Minji said. "And he attacked me first. I just defended myself." Ji-won leaned back in his chair. He had been working in space stations for 20 years, dealing with aliens from dozens of species. He knew the galaxy did not understand humans very well. They looked at the data, at the numbers, and saw nothing remarkable. They did not understand what it meant to evolve on a planet like Earth, where the gravity crushed you and the predators hunted in packs, and survival meant learning to fight. "There's going to be an inquiry," he said. "Ambassadors, lawyers, maybe even a tribunal. This is going to get complicated." Minji nodded. She had known this was coming the moment she made the decision to fight back. But what choice did she have? Let Hyen assault her? Let him prove that humans were weak and helpless? No, she had warned him. The scanner had warned him. He had chosen violence, and humans, she thought bitterly, were very good at violence. In the medical center, Commander Hyen lay on a bed surrounded by monitoring equipment. The doctors had stabilized him, but the pain was overwhelming even with the medication. His broken arm throbbed. His chest ached with every breath. His throat felt like fire, but worse than the physical pain was the humiliation. He had been defeated, broken, by a human. The scanner's warning echoed in his mind. Do not engage in physical confrontation. Threat level extreme. For the first time in his life, Commander Hyen understood that the galaxy had been wrong about humans. And he had paid the price for that misunderstanding with his broken body and shattered pride. Ambassador Tae-young arrived at Orbital Station Tau 9 3 days after the incident. He was a tall man in his 50s with gray hair and the patient expression of someone who had spent decades managing crises. He carried a single briefcase and was accompanied by 2 aides, both human. The station's conference room was packed. High Chancellor Somin of the Valkyrie Empire sat at the head of the table, her 4 arms folded across her armored chest. Representatives from a dozen other species filled the other seats. The Tharn, the Kryn, the Pelthan, and others. Everyone wanted answers. Captain Ji-won had released Minji from protective custody, but advised her to stay in her ship. The Valkyrie wanted her handed over for trial. The galactic news networks were calling her everything from a secret weapon to a psychopath. The video of her fight with Commander Hyen had been viewed billions of times across the galaxy. Tae-young set his briefcase on the table and looked around the room. "Thank you all for coming," he said calmly. I understand there are many questions about what happened here. I'm authorized to provide answers. High Chancellor Soman leaned forward. Your human attacked one of our finest commanders without provocation. She broke his arm, damaged his internal organs, and left him unable to speak properly for weeks. We demand she be extradited to face Valkyrie justice. With respect, Chancellor, the security footage shows that Commander Hyen initiated physical contact after being explicitly warned not to, Taeyong replied. Station law is clear on this matter. He approached her, ignored multiple warnings, and made unwanted physical contact. She responded with self-defense. Self-defense? Someone's voice rose. She destroyed him. No normal civilian could do what she did. She must be military, a trained operative. You're hiding something about her. Taeyong opened his briefcase and pulled out a data chip. Actually, we're hiding something about all of them. About all humans. And it's time the galaxy knew the truth. He inserted the chip into the conference table's holographic projector. A three-dimensional image of Earth appeared above the table, slowly rotating. It looked beautiful, with blue oceans and green continents and white clouds swirling across its surface. This is Earth, Taeyong said. It's classified as a Class 12 death world. Murmurs went around the table. Most habitable planets were Class 1 through 5. A Class 12 was nearly uninhabitable by galactic standards. A Thon representative raised his massive hand. That can't be correct. Humans are not physically remarkable. Humans are not physically remarkable. Your bone density, muscle composition, sensory capabilities, they're all average by galactic standards. Average compared to the galaxy, yes, Taeyong agreed. But let me show you what we're comparing them to. The hologram changed, showing a bar graph. Earth's gravity appeared on one side, and the average gravity of all habitable worlds in the galaxy appeared on the other. Earth's bar was significantly higher. Earth's gravity is 1.0 g, Taeyong explained. 83% of habitable worlds have gravity between 0.6 and 0. AG. Humans evolved to walk, run, and function normally under higher gravity than most of you experience. When we're on your stations in your environments, we're essentially getting stronger. The hologram changed again, showing Earth's atmosphere composition. The oxygen content was highlighted in red. Earth's atmosphere is 21% oxygen, Taeyong continued. For most of you, this would be intoxicating. Dangerous, even. For humans, this is normal. It's what our bodies expect. It's what allows our metabolism to operate at peak efficiency. Dr. Jung-ho, one of Taeyong's aides, stepped forward. He was a xenobiologist, an expert in comparative alien physiology. May I? He asked Taeyong. The ambassador nodded and stepped aside. Junho pulled up a new image showing various Earth predators. Lions, sharks, bears, snakes. Earth is remarkable for its biodiversity, and much of that diversity is predatory. Humans didn't evolve to be the strongest species on their planet, or the fastest, or the most venomous. They evolved to be the smartest, and the most persistent. He showed a video of a human hunter running after an antelope across a hot savanna. The antelope was faster, but the human kept running. Hours passed in the video. The antelope had to stop to rest, panting heavily. The human kept running. Eventually, the antelope collapsed from exhaustion, and the human caught it. Persistence hunting, Junho explained. Humans can run their prey to death. They have endurance that most species can't match. They can regulate their body temperature through sweating, which allows them to continue physical activity when others would overheat. They can function on minimal water and food for extended periods. They're built to survive. The conference room was silent. The alien representatives stared at the images. processing this information.junho, continued. Let me tell you about human pain tolerance. In tests, humans can continue fighting with injuries that would incapacitate most species. Broken bones, severe wounds, blood loss. They can push through all of it because of their adrenaline response. When threatened, human bodies flood with hormones that increase strength, reduce pain sensation, and sharpen focus. He pulled up medical scans of Minji taken after the fight with Hyan. This is the human woman who fought Commander Hyan. Her knuckles were bruised and bleeding. She had minor cuts on her arms. That's all. She was operating at normal capacity throughout the confrontation. High Chancellor Soman stared at the scans. But how? Hyan is a trained warrior. He's fought in dozens of battles. That's actually part of the problem, Taehyung said, taking over again. The Velkari are an honorable warrior species. You have codes, traditions, formal combat protocols. These are wonderful things that show the evolution of your culture. He paused, letting that sink in. Humans evolved on a planet where there was no honor in combat, only survival. They fought with their hands, their teeth, whatever they could find. They learned to target weak points, to use leverage instead of strength, to fight dirty because clean fighting got you killed. Junho pulled up footage of Earth's history. Ancient humans fighting with stone tools. Medieval armies clashing with swords and shields. Modern soldiers in training. Humans spent their entire evolutionary history killing each other, Junho said quietly. They got very, very good at it. It's only in the last few thousand years that they started trying to stop. But the biology remains. The instincts remain. He showed genetic markers on a holographic DNA strand. Every human carries this legacy in their genes. Fast reflexes, pattern recognition, spatial awareness, the ability to track movement and predict attacks. These aren't military training. These are survival adaptations that took millions of years to develop. A Kryn representative floated forward, its tentacles rippling with agitation. Are you saying every human is a potential warrior? That all of them are dangerous? We're saying that humans have the capacity for violence built into their biology, Taehyung answered carefully. Just like the Tharn have natural strength, or the Velkari have armor, or the Kryn have toxins. It's not good or bad. It's just what they are. High Chancellor Soman was quiet for a long moment. Then she asked, "Why did you hide this? Why did you let the galaxy believe humans were weak?" "We didn't hide it intentionally," Taehyung said. "When Earth first made contact with the galaxy, we were compared to other species. And by galactic standards, we are weak. We don't have natural armor or extra limbs. The scanners read our basic biology and categorized us as unremarkable." He pulled up documents from Earth's first contact period. But there were incidents. Military encounters before we signed the non-aggression accords. Human soldiers, even without advanced weapons, had kill ratios that shocked our opponents. We tried to explain, but no one believed us. They thought we were exaggerating or trying to seem more dangerous than we were. Junho added, the scanner warnings were implemented after those early conflicts. They're based on documented evidence of human combat effectiveness. But most stations treated them as errors or jokes because they didn't match the perceived threat level. Until now, Soman said. Until now, Taehyung agreed. The conference room fell silent again. The alien representatives looked at each other, then at the humans in the room, then at the holographic images of Earth still floating above the table. Finally, Soman spoke. "We withdraw our extradition request. What happened was not criminal. It was a misunderstanding of what humans are capable of." She paused. "But the galaxy needs to know this." "All of it." "We agree," Taehyung said. "It's time for honesty. Humans are dangerous, but we're trying very hard not to be. And perhaps that's something worth understanding. 2 months after the conference, Minji sat in a small cafe on Way Station Meridian, staring at her coffee and trying to ignore the stares. The station was busy with afternoon traffic, aliens from dozens of species moving through the corridors, but she could feel their eyes on her. Some looked away quickly when she noticed them. Others watched her openly, their expressions a mix of fear and curiosity. The video had changed everything. Not just the footage of her fight with Commander Hyein, but also the recordings from Ambassador Taeyang's conference. The galaxy now knew that humans were Deathworlders, that their biology was designed for survival on a planet that would kill most other species, that every human carried the capacity for violence in their genetic code. Some species had reacted with fear. There were stations now that had implemented human-free zones, areas where humans were not permitted to enter. Pacifist species like the Pelthan were calling for Earth to be quarantined, its people kept isolated from the rest of the galaxy for everyone's safety. Other species had reacted with respect. Warrior cultures like the Tharn suddenly viewed humans differently, not as weak traders and explorers, but as fellow predators worthy of acknowledgement. Job offers had flooded Earth's networks. Security companies and militaries wanting to hire human contractors for combat roles. Minji hated all of it. She just wanted to haul cargo and be left alone. A shadow fell across her table. She looked up to see another human woman standing there, holding a tray with her own coffee. The woman was older than Minji, maybe in her 30s, with short hair and a confident smile. "Mind if I sit?" the woman asked. Minji shrugged. "Sure." The woman sat down and extended her hand. "Yuna, I run cargo routes in this sector too?" Minji shook her hand. "Minji, I know who you are," Yuna said. "Everyone knows who you are. You're famous. Or infamous, depending on who you ask." "I didn't want to be famous," Minji said quietly. "None of us did," Yuna replied. "But here we are." They sat in silence for a moment, sipping their coffee. Then Yuna said, "It's been rough for all of us. Human cargo haulers, I mean. Some stations won't let us dock anymore. Others charge us triple the normal fees because they say we're a security risk. I've had contracts canceled because the clients are afraid to have humans on their stations. But you're still out here," Minji observed. "Where else would I go?" Yuna asked. "Back to Earth? I left there for a reason. This is my life, flying between stations, making deliveries. I'm not going to let fear change that." A young Tharn approached their table nervously. He was smaller than most of his species, maybe an adolescent by their standards, with smooth gray skin and large eyes. He stopped a respectful distance away and bowed slightly. "Excuse me," he said in heavily accented human language. "You are Minji? The one from the video?" Minji tensed. "Yes, what do you want?" "I am Seok," the young Tharn said. "I study combat at the War Academy on Tharn Prime. I wanted to ask you about your fighting technique. How did you defeat a Valkyrie commander when you were so much smaller?" Yuna leaned back in her chair, watching with amusement. Minji sighed. "I didn't defeat him with technique. I just did what I had to do to defend myself. But the leverage, the way you used his momentum against him, the targeting of weak points," Seok said eagerly. "This is sophisticated combat knowledge. Will you teach me?" "No," Minji said flatly. Seok's face fell. "But why not?" "I want to learn how humans fight. You are strong, dangerous. This is something to be respected." "It's not something to respect," Minji said, her voice harder now. "We fight the way we do because our planet gave us no choice. Because if we didn't learn to kill things bigger and stronger than us, we would have gone extinct. There's nothing honorable about it." She stood up, leaving her coffee unfinished. "I don't want to teach people how to hurt each other. I just want to deliver my cargo and be left alone." She walked away, leaving Seok standing there confused and Yuna shaking her head. Yuna caught up with Minji outside the cafe. "That was harsh, was it?" Minji asked. He was treating violence like it's something to admire, like it's a skill to be proud of. "Maybe for his species it is," Yuna said. "The Thorn respects strength. They always have. Then they should learn to respect restraint too," Minji said. "I didn't want to fight Hyen. I warned him. I tried to walk away. But he forced it, and now everyone thinks I'm some kind of warrior." They walked through the station in silence for a while. Finally, Yuna said, "You know what the hardest part is. Trying to be better than our nature. The galaxy knows now that we're built for violence, that we're dangerous. And some of them want us to be weapons, while others want us locked away. But neither of those groups understands that we're trying to be something else." Minji looked at her. "What do you mean?" "Think about it," Yuna said. "Humans spent millions of years killing each other. We got so good at it that we nearly destroyed ourselves multiple times. And then, somehow, we decided to stop. We built laws, created peace treaties, started exploring space instead of conquering each other. That's not weakness. That's incredible strength." Minji had never thought about it that way. On Earth, Ambassador Taeyang sat in a meeting with Earth's Planetary Council. The room was tense. The council members had questions, concerns, and demands. "We're getting reports from every sector," Council Member Boyang said. "Human traders being denied docking rights. Human workers being fired from their jobs because their employers are afraid. Human children being pulled out of schools on mixed species stations. This is discrimination." "It's fear," Taeyang replied. "And fear based on newly revealed truth. We can't force the galaxy to accept us. So what do we do?" Another council member asked. "We adapt," Taeyang said. "We establish new protocols. We accept more restrictions in exchange for protection from exploitation. We show the galaxy that yes, we're dangerous, but we choose not to be." He pulled up a draft treaty. "I've been negotiating with representatives from the major species. Here's what I'm proposing. Humans accept enhanced background checks and behavior monitoring on mixed stations. In exchange, we get legal protections against discrimination and exploitation. We contribute to galactic security as professionals, not as weapons. We share our medical knowledge and our understanding of Deathworld survival, but we don't share our genetics or our combat training. And they'll agree to this?" Boyang asked. "Most will," Taeyang said. "They're starting to understand that having humans as allies is better than having humans as enemies. Or worse, having humans as tools." Back on Waystation Meridian, Minji had returned to her ship. She sat in the pilot's chair, looking out at the stars. She had a message waiting on her console, a job offer from a security company. They wanted her to join their team, using her natural abilities to protect clients. The pay was 3 times what she made hauling cargo. She deleted the message without responding. Another message appeared. This one was from Seok, the young Thorn. It was a simple apology for bothering her, along with a statement that he understood now. Strength was not just about fighting. It was about choosing not to fight. Minji smiled slightly. Maybe the galaxy was learning after all. She powered up her ship's engines. She had a delivery to make, medical supplies bound for a colony that needed them. It was simple work, honest work, and it was what she chose to do with her life. The scanner at the station exit read her biometrics one last time as she departed. The warning flashed. Earthborn detected. Do not engage. Threat level extreme. But this time, the station traffic controllers who saw it didn't laugh. They just cleared her for departure and wished her safe travels. Thought it was a small change. But it was a beginning. 6 months had passed since the incident at Orbital Station. Tau to 9. The galaxy had settled into a new understanding of humanity, one that was more cautious, but also more honest. The pretense was gone. Everyone knew what humans were now. Minji's cargo ship docked at Haven Station, a newer facility on the edge of explored space. She had never been here before, but her route had expanded recently. More stations were willing to accept human traders now that the treaties were in place. Now that there were rules and protections for both sides, she went through the customs checkpoint, placing her hand on the scanner as always. The familiar warning appeared on the screens in red letters. Earthborn detected. Do not engage in physical confrontation. Threat level extreme, but this time, nobody laughed. The aliens in the customs area glanced at the warning, then went back to their business. It was just information now, a fact to be acknowledged and respected. Like knowing that Thawne were strong, or that Kryn had venom, or that Pelthan were sensitive to loud noises. Humans were dangerous. Everyone knew. Everyone understood. A young Velkari officer approached Minji as she collected her identification chip. For a moment, her body tensed, remembering Hyan and the fight that had changed everything. But this Velkari's body language was different. His forearms were held in a non-threatening position, and his chitinous armor bore the marks of junior rank. "Excuse me," the officer said politely. "You are the cargo hauler Minji, yes?" "I am," she replied carefully. "I am Officer Minho," he said. "I wanted to offer assistance with your cargo. We have automated loaders if you need them." Minji blinked in surprise. "That's very kind of you." "Thank you." They walked together toward the cargo bay. Minho kept a respectful distance, not crowding her space. He seemed genuinely helpful, not afraid exactly, but certainly aware of who she was and what she represented. "If you don't mind me asking," Minho said hesitantly, "did you really defeat Commander Hyan in combat?" "I defended myself when he attacked me," Minji corrected. "That's not the same thing as combat." "Of course," Minho said quickly. "I meant no disrespect. It's just that Hyan was one of our finest warriors." "What happened to him?" "It changed how the Velkari military thinks about hand-to-hand confrontation." "How so?" Minji asked. "We used to believe that honor and strength were enough," Minho explained. "That our armor and our forearms made us superior in close combat. But Hyan's experience taught us that size and strength are not everything. That technique, leverage, and knowing your opponent's weaknesses can overcome physical advantages." He paused at the entrance to the cargo bay. Hyan himself has been teaching combat classes now. He recovered from his injuries, though his primary right arm is still weak. He tells all the new warriors about you, about the scanner's warning, about his arrogance. He says you taught him the most important lesson a warrior can learn. "What's that?" Minji asked. "That the deadliest opponent is the one you underestimate," Minho replied. They unloaded her cargo together, working efficiently. When they were done, Minho bowed slightly. "Safe travels, cargo hauler Minji, and thank you for not killing Commander Hyan. He has become a better teacher because of what you showed him." Minji watched him walk away, processing this information. Hyan was teaching now, using his defeat as a lesson. Maybe there was some good that had come from all of this after all. On Thawne Prime, Siok sat in a classroom with other young warriors. The instructor was an older Thawne, scarred from many battles, with a voice that commanded respect. Today's lesson was about different fighting styles across species. "The Velkari fight with honor and strength," the instructor said. "The Kryn use toxins and group tactics. The Pelthan avoid combat entirely, preferring diplomacy." He paused. "And the humans fight to survive." He pulled up footage of Minji's fight with Hyan. The class had seen it before, but they watched again with new understanding. "Notice how the human uses leverage instead of strength," the instructor continued. Notice how she targets vulnerable points instead of armored areas. Notice how she never stops moving, never gives her opponent time to recover. Seok raised his hand. Teacher, I met this human once. I asked her to teach me her fighting style. She refused. Why did she refuse? The instructor asked. She said fighting was not something to be respected or admired. She said humans fight the way they do because they had no choice. The instructor nodded slowly. And this, young ones, is the most important lesson about humans. They are capable of great violence, yes, but they choose restraint. They could be conquerors, but they choose to be traders and explorers. That choice, that restraint in the face of capability, that is true strength. On Earth, in the planetary council chambers, Ambassador Taeyang was presenting the results of 6 months of new policies. The treaties are holding, he reported. We have legal protections in place on 87% of major stations. Discrimination incidents have decreased by 40%. And human traders are reporting better treatment overall. Council member Boyan studied the data. But we're also more isolated than before. Fewer humans are choosing to work in mixed species environments. More are staying in human-only sectors. That's a natural response to fear and uncertainty, Taeyang acknowledged. But I believe it will change over time. As the galaxy adjusts to the truth about us, as they see that we're not monsters, trust will rebuild. What about military recruitment? Another council member asked. Are we still getting requests for human soldiers? Yes, Taeyang said. But we're being selective. We only allow humans to join galactic security forces as individuals who choose that path, not as conscripts or weapons. And we ensure they're treated as professionals, not as tools. He pulled up another report. Interestingly, we're seeing a shift in how other species view conflict resolution. Several species have started implementing de-escalation training based on human psychology. The idea that walking away from a fight requires more strength than engaging in one, this is becoming popular in diplomatic circles. At Haven Station, Minji prepared to depart for her next delivery. Her route was taking her deeper into explored space than she had ever gone before, to stations and colonies that were just beginning to hear about the truth of humanity. Before she left, she recorded a message. She had been thinking about it for weeks, ever since her conversation with Yuna about being better than their nature. She decided it was time to say something publicly, something that might help people understand. She uploaded the message to the Galactic Network and set it to public. Within hours, it would be available on every major news feed in known space. In the message, she sat in her pilot's chair, looking directly at the camera. She looked tired but determined. My name is Minji, she said. I'm the cargo hauler who fought Commander Hyen 6 months ago. You've all seen the video. You all know what happened. And you've all learned things about humans that you didn't know before. She paused, choosing her words carefully. I want you to understand something. I didn't want to hurt Hyen. I warned him. The scanner warned him. He chose violence, and I responded with violence because that's what I had to do to defend myself. And yes, I was effective because humans are built for violence. Our planet made us this way. She leaned forward slightly. But here's what I want you to really understand. Every day, every single day, humans make the choice not to be violent. We could be conquerors. We could use our capabilities to take what we want by force. But we don't. We choose to be traders, explorers, artists, scientists, friends. Her voice grew stronger. That choice is hard. It goes against instincts that are millions of years old. Every human carries the capacity for violence in their DNA, but we also carry the capacity for compassion, creativity, and cooperation. And we choose which capacity to follow. She sat back. I'm not a warrior. I'm not a weapon. I'm just a pilot who wants to deliver cargo and see the stars and be left alone. That's what most humans want. To live our lives in peace, to contribute to the galaxy in positive ways, to be neighbors and colleagues and friends. She looked directly at the camera. Yes, we're dangerous. The scanner was right about that. But we're trying to be better than our nature. And I hope that's something the galaxy can understand and respect. The message ended. Within days, it had been viewed billions of times. Responses flooded in from across the galaxy. Some were positive, some were negative, but most were thoughtful. People were starting to understand. Minji's ship left Haven Station, heading for the deep dark between stars. The departure scanner read her biometrics one last time, and the warning flashed as it always did. Earthborn detected. Do not engage. Threat level extreme. But as she accelerated away from the station, she saw a new message appear on her console. It was from the station's traffic control, something she had never received before. Safe travels, cargo hauler Minji, and thank you for your message. It helped us understand. She smiled. It was a small thing, just a simple message from one alien to one human. But it represented something larger, understanding, respect. The beginning of real acceptance, not based on false assumptions, but on honest truth. The galaxy knew now what humans were. They knew about the death world called Earth, about the biology designed for survival, about the capacity for violence that every human carried. But they were also learning about the capacity for restraint,